Hey everybody, this is Chris, and first, right off the bat, I just want to let you know, you see it completely taken apart right now, but we are going to cut and edit my whole body removal process from the video where I removed the rear leg. So I've already got this one apart. I'm going to be replacing this front leg here, where you can see is obviously broken. And this one entails a little bit more because it has the antenna. So the body, the arm, I'm sorry, it solders into place here, and then the antenna runs underneath the board and then goes underneath to the board in the back on the bottom side of the quad. So it does entail a little bit more work, but I will show you every step. There will be no question should you have to do this repair. So I'm going to cut and edit in the video showing my quad where I replaced the back leg, so you can see how to disassemble it. And then once we get to this point right here where the quad looks like this, then I will start doing this repair, and I'll just do the little magic of editing and put everything in there. So throughout that portion of the video, if you do hear me happen to say something about the back leg, that's just because I used that video. But I'm going to try to edit all that out to make it look as fresh as I can, to where it is just strictly focusing on this front leg. So we'll end right here, and you watch how to take the quad apart. And once we get to this point, we'll get this baby repaired. First thing you want to do is take off your props. Get those out of the way. And then if you have your SD card in it, you want to make sure you remove the SD card. Take out your SD card, because when you separate the body, if that SD card's in there, the body's not going to want to come off. So first, let's just flip it over. And the tools you're going to need are a small Phillips screwdriver. You can see I got a double aught, and then a number 6 Torx. I think you can see that. And then I have a little pry tool here, and I have tweezers. So you're going to want to remove all the screws first, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the camera out of here. So you're going to take your number 6 Torx, remove these two. My hands will get in the way, but I think this is probably the best view for you. So remove 2 screws. Just take this, put it aside. And how you put your tools, how you keep your tools, and your parts, your screws and all that, that's up to you, but you do want to be organized in how you place them. So now 2 small Phillips screws, very, very small. What I do is I keep my screws with the parts that came off with them. So I'm keeping all these parts right here as one. Take this little plate, put it aside, and then remove the camera. Now when you remove this camera, it's very simple, but you want to be careful with this. I like to use something to pry it, and my pry tool is a little bit too big, so I simply just take a very tiny screwdriver, put it on the corner, and flip it right out. And then take the camera out. So we're removing the camera. Have that all out of the way. Now we need to go ahead and take these off. And there's a lot of hidden screws in this thing, so this is only the second time I've taken one apart, so you gotta bear with me. But we're gonna take all these screws out here, and I'll fast forward through this part. And then inside here, It's hard to see because it's black in there, but you can see there's a screw here and then one over here. So we're going to take those out. And then just double check, make sure I got them all. Because removing this, we do not want to crack anything. So now, any videos you've seen where people are taking these shells apart, it is not as easy as you would think it is. When you're looking at those videos, this is not as easy as it looks. These are snapped together pretty tight, and I'm going to start with the front. Just bend my legs down a little bit to get it to set nice and stable. And then I just want to pry. Now that part comes off easy, but actually the rest did come off. I just worked on one where it was very hard. So this one came apart nicely. So far, we're not done yet. There we go. So there's your bottom shell. So I lied to you. It comes off very easily. Some of them are very hard. The one I worked on, it felt like it was glued together. And but that wasn't mine. That was for somebody else. So here we're looking at the bottom. This is your sensors and everything. Now we need to get the top cover off. And then this is where you find the hidden screws. We have 2 screws on the sides that we have to replace next, and those are Phillips. So we're going to remove those. So now we have these sides out. And then we have in the front, we have 2 screws right here. And again, remember, this is only my second time doing this, so bear with me. Yeah, those screws are the same, so keeping all my cover screws together. And then you'll find down in here, you're not going to be able to see it, but right down in here, there is 2 small screws. Yeah, it's black down in there and the screws are black, so you're not going to see it, but there's one here and there's one over here, so we're going to remove those. Okay, so there's another cover screw. And then in the back, you'll see we have one right here. You can see those. And one right here. We'll remove those. Right here in the nose. You have one here and one here. So you have this bracket, your sensor. I think it's just the bracket for the sensor. It might be the whole sensor. I think it's just the bracket. So again, what I did was I felt a little resistance. And they're not coming out. They're unscrewing, but they're not coming out. So that's where tweezers come in handy. Same type of screw. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and take that screw out. Put that aside with the body parts. There's 2 screws back here. Here's another shell just so I can make sure I got all my screws. We got the 4 in the back. We got all these here in the front. We got these hidden ones. There are no other screws. There's nothing else holding us on here. The only thing that holds you on is these sensors, and you kind of got to separate from them. So just keep trying to separate from them, because that's what's holding us in place. So you got to spread it as you try to get it off there. So let's just try this one side at a time here. Sorry guys, but I warned you, this is not easy. You feel like you're gonna break it, and you definitely don't want to do that when you're trying to fix it in the first place. There we go. So it's gotten past those. Just gotta press until it comes undone, and don't worry, you're not hurting anything. It just sounds like you are. So there we are. We are off. So that was tough. And I mainly make it tough because I just don't want to break it. So that's my shell, and this is somebody else's shell. So my top shell came off very hard. So just give you a look here. This is what she looks like naked. Very well built. The whole goal here is we want to take this cage off. We want to be able to take this cage off and get underneath this plate right here, because that's where everything wires. But in order to take this top cage off, you also have to undo some stuff from the bottom, if I recall. So let's go ahead and just focus here on the top first and take out all these tiny screws. But we're going to loosen this sensor up. So that's this sensor here, 2 screws. Now I'm going to move those screws over there. So that's what holds this sensor in place here, and I just want to lift it up. I just want to have it like that. So I can undo this plate, which is a small Phillips screwdriver. So you have all these screws here. So 6 screws hold that plate in place. That plate, what that does is it holds down the plugs for all these sensors. So we're going to undo these sensors now using our Torx. And you have 2 screws on the side there. And then we're gonna break our plate loose here and slide it back, and you'll see it covers all these plugs. I'm gonna leave these sensors on. I'm not taking them off, but I do need to unplug these here. So just get your fingernail under them or a pry tool, but you got to be very careful with your pry tools because you can end up hitting other electronics and doing damage. So we just want to get this ribbon cable down past the cage. So you got to just carefully unpeel that, bring it down. And it's a pretty good thick ribbon cable. It's not as fragile as you would think. So now we go to the other side and we have 1 ribbon cable. So that's this one here. And we're going to peel that one down. And just get it out of our way there. You want to unpeel the whole thing all the way, every bit of it, because it's attached to the board that you are going to be soldering your new leg to, and you need this to be free. If you don't undo this, chances are you're going to rip it. So undo it all the way and just let it dangle like that. So now we're going to take the screws out for this. These 2 are separate parts. The top cage is separate from this board, but there's a ribbon cable that goes underneath the two of them. So what we need to do is we have to undo this whole front just because of that one ribbon cable, because you can't get to it from inside here. But what it does is it goes right here, and then it goes down. It goes from here inside and then all the way underneath there. I think it's harder to undo it this way than to undo this front. So I'm going to undo this front and leave that intact. So now we need a Phillips head. And this cover plate, which is also Phillips. So we want to undo our sensors, our front forward sensors here. So you just unsnap those and we're going to pull them aside like so. And there. You just want to get them away from the board here. And then this one here, your GPS is the one that you can leave alone. Yeah. So you can leave this one on. This is the one that runs all the way through into the bottom. Pretty sure. Let's look underneath here. Yeah. I'll show you when I get it off. So we're going to leave that one alone. And now we're going to flip it upside down. I'm going to set all this nice and safe, so when I set it upside down I don't harm anything. And if you like, you can put one of your screws back in to this plate here so it doesn't flop around, but I'm going to just leave it and flip it upside down. So now we have to take all the screws out for the cage. See them right here? There's 3 on each side, so I'm going to take those out. We're going to go down through this hole right here and get that one there. Come on, baby. There we go. And then you'll see the cage is lifted, but there's a clip here that is going to stop me from taking this screw out. So I just need to push that clip in. That clip holds that bottom plate in, so I'm just going to push it in enough to let that screw fall out. And it might not be unscrewed all the way, so make sure it's unscrewed all the way, but we are past the point of the clip and I can grab it. There we go. So now we'll go to the other side. We'll push that clip in. And now we can take this screw out. And I'll show you what that clip does because we're going to have to remove it. Okay, so now we should be able to pull this whole top off with the cage. When it does snap, it snaps here and here. So you're not going to break anything, but just be careful. Oh, I don't like the way these feel when you're doing it. I'm going to get a screwdriver. Okay. So that other ribbon cable I told you about, you can see now. It runs across here. And then it runs right there. Okay, so now we're just going to put this aside with all the screws that came with it. We're not done yet. We have to get into here now. That's where all the wiring is. So now we're going to remove these screws. So here on the side we have little clips now that hold this in place. I have it all unscrewed, and there's just little plastic clips that you're going to press. So I'll try to do it right here where you can still see, but you're just going to press enough to get them to pop up. Let's start from the front, maybe that'll make it easier. And everything you do, it feels like you're going to break the quad, but don't worry. Just be careful, be smart, be careful. So I'm just pressing those up enough to get them clear, and then I'm going to just press them one at a time, slowly, till I get them all the way up. So now we're up, and I should be able to just hinge it like that, and there's that plate. Put it over here with the screws. Okay, and magically we are here with the quad that actually has the bad broken leg. So as I mentioned before, that other recording was when I replaced a back leg. So we're replacing the front leg. We need to replace this. We need to resolder in this section here for this leg. So I need to get all this white silicone goop out of here, and the best way to do it really is just pick it apart with your fingers or to use a pair of tweezers. So you want to be careful, of course, with all your circuits, but right here there is nothing. So I can take my X-Acto knife and I kind of just score and separate it. And I don't cut deep into the board or anything. I'm just scoring the silicone, that's all. So that way when I pick it apart, it'll break apart and come out easily. So I'm going to pause the video right here, get most of this out, and then I'll come back and we'll just show you picking the rest of it out so we don't drag the video out. So you just want to get it all out. And there's just one little piece I'm trying to get here. These tweezers bend easily. I need to get a different set. This little bugger just wants to hold on. See if I can scrape it a little bit here with my knife and get it out of there. Because again, I don't want any of this in my solder to junk it up. And chances are it's going to come with the wire. There we go. Blow it all out. So from here we're going to unsolder all these wires. I'm going to get the soldering iron all ready, and I think this position here will probably be the best for the soldering iron. So I'm going to clean up all these little bits, heat up the soldering iron, and then we will undo those wires. Okay, so we have our soldering iron. We need to remove these 3 wires here and these 3 here. And your board is labeled black, yellow, and red. It's not labeled here, but it runs the same order, black, yellow, red. Or you can simply just take your phone, and I recommend you do this. Take your phone and just take a picture. And that way you have a picture of how it goes back. But again, black, yellow, red, black, yellow, red. So we're going to unsolder those now, one at a time here. We'll start with these little guys. And I just want to say this is very hard for me because right now I have a camera up over my head and a light. So I can't really get my head over top of this. I have to do this from kind of afar. And I don't like it. But we're just undoing each wire one at a time here. And make sure you don't get your soldering iron on anything else. This is all metal, but If it were plastic and you laid your soldering iron on the side of it, of course you would melt it. So we've taken those off. Now we'll take and get each of these. Again, I'm still in an awkward position here, but let's do red here. These tweezers have had it. Yellow. Clean that up a little bit. I like to make sure I have my solder nice and flat, so when I go to put the next wire back in place, I can set it on there, heat it up, and get it to sink right in. So get this last wire. That one's got a lot of solder on it. Clean that up a little bit. Okay, so all our wires are done. We're done with the soldering iron for now. Clean the tip up when you put it away, so it's nice and clean. Let that set. And then we need to get to the antenna. So our board here is loose, and when you do this, see, all our wires are right here. When you do this, there's a plug underneath here. You can't avoid it. It's going to come unplugged. It's this plug right here. So I'll show you how to get that reattached, because from this position you cannot reattach it. So we're going to go to the bottom side. Your antenna runs straight to the back, and then right here you can see it. So we're going to flip over, and then we have to take this plate off here. So here's where it's a lot different compared to the last one I did. So we need to undo this sensor. One screw, 2, 3, 4 screws. Okay, now we want to lift up this. You can take this and just move it to the side a little bit to get some space, and then we can remove this plate. So we're taking that plate out, put all your screws with it, keep everything together. This screw will stay intact because it has a little nut on the back of it, so you don't remove that screw. We just have this loose, that's all we're doing. So you have an antenna here on the corner, that's for one leg, and then the antenna here right in the middle, that's for the other leg. So double check. Our leg is this one right here. It's hard to get a hold of, but it's this one right here, if you can see. And then you wiggle it and you see it's this one that goes right in the middle. So you can simply just take your fingernail or a small pry tool and undo that. And then it just goes down through this corner hole here. So we're going to push that through. So now it's still not easy, because you have this flex tape here, and then the antenna runs underneath this. So we have to remove that. So here is where you want to be really careful because of that flex tape. So now we need to figure out, do we want to pull this flex tape through here? If we can without any damage, yes we do. So yeah, we can pull it through. Push it, I'm just pushing it through the frame. A lot of work just to replace a leg on this drone. Okay, so everything's aside. And then our antenna wire, we need to get these 2 screws out at least. And there's that one. And there's that one. So we got it. So let's pull the antenna back out of the way here. So now we're all done there. We're going to leave this flex tape and everything the way it is because we are going to have to get back under there with the new antenna. So that's all done. Now let's remove this leg and be free of the broken leg. So these tiny screws go into that plate. Remove these 2 screws, 1, 2. Okay, I just want you to see as I'm unscrewing it, this little plate is starting to back out, and I want to show you how it's spring loaded. It didn't pop, but it should have. We have a damaged piece. So this I was not intending on having happen, but that whole shoulder spring is not operating the way it should be. So we need to find out what's going on there that may be broken. So let's put the screw there, pull it out. Yep, it broke away from the spring. So that's another part. It does not come with the leg. So that's disappointing because that's a part I don't have. So I'll probably end up pausing this video just for that small portion there, but let's keep on going as far as we can. And this quad is not mine, it belongs to somebody else. So when something like this happens, I feel really bad because they're waiting for their quad, and that was a surprise I was not expecting to find. But it's clearly broken. So we're going to pull everything out. There's another piece of it there. It just shattered. So when he hit and broke this leg, it hit pretty hard. Yeah, there's several little broken bits and pieces here. So that's something to keep in mind. It's something that you should probably order in with your arm. When you order a new arm, see, pieces just keep falling out. When you order your arm, order this shoulder spring. It's a joint, but it's spring loaded. So at this point right here, we have to stop, and I'm going to order that part, and once that part comes in, we'll put the new leg in and wire it all up and capture all that on video as well. So I'm going to pause right here, and we'll pick up where we left off once that part comes in. So I have to wait about 2 or 3 more weeks just to get that part. Okay, so we have the new piece. It's not been 2 weeks. Unfortunately, Chinese New Year hit. So this poor guy that I am fixing this drone, this Evo 2 for, he has waited patiently. He has been so great. He's waited patiently for the other parts, like this leg, to come in. And he also broke his gimbal dampeners, so had quite the task of just getting those. Those are actually the hardest part to get. And then with Chinese New Year, this hasn't even made it through customs yet, so the guy needs this quad. He's not been bugging me. He's been very patient, but I feel bad because he uses his for I forget what business he does. I think he mentioned it, but he makes a living with his Evo too. So he's not making a good living with it right now at my place being worked on. So I'll take the hit. I don't need mine right now. It's winter. I don't enjoy flying that much this time of year. So we'll feed it in here. And again, make sure that this is in its track right here. Always make sure that's in its track. And it'll slide in nice and easy. So now when we put this back, now when I took it out, you didn't see how much spring tension is on this. So when I put it back, you'll see just how much. You want to have the arm fully extended when you do it, so it falls into the right place. Let's turn it. Okay, see, now we're sliding in. Now here's the fun part. This thing, that is so tight. And of course, I don't have my pliers. That thing is so tight, I'm going to use a different pair. Normally I use a pair of needle nose. I'm going to try to use these, see if they'll work. But what you're going to do is we're just going to turn it. And then once we turn it, try to get it to go down in place. Or better yet, let's do it this way. This works better actually. I did this on mine. Torx head. Have your screw ready. And at this point, like, I don't know if I have it on the right side. Yeah, it's on the wrong side, so I don't think it's gonna snap. Right now is when it should be under tension. I think the spring needs to be on the other side, on this side. There's only one way you can put these. So we're gonna turn it to this side, push it in, and then, yeah. So have my screw ready on the Torx head. Hopefully I'll keep this all in view for you. We're going to turn this, start our screw. And bring it down. So that actually is the easiest way, I think, to do it. Let's get that other screw in there, and then we'll make sure everything is pushed in properly, and I'll show you when it's pushed in right how it should set. So I'm not going to force on these screws until we fall into place. Okay, we're in track. So you see this little track right here? You want to make sure that you're inside that. Get this out of my way. So now I can tighten down fully. And I don't think I'm in all the way. Looks like there's a little, nope, it's just how thick it is. Yeah, and we're all the way down. So now it snaps. Just want to make sure it snaps and, you know, stays locked like it's supposed to. So hopefully I kept that in camera view for you. That's one thing I don't do, is I can't really keep my eye on the camera. I'm just making sure this is good and tight. I go from one screw to the other and snug them up until they're good and tight. Just go back and forth between the two. All right, so we have a leg on, finally. See how we have this loop here? We want to create the same thing here. We want to just give this a slight little loop like that. So let's get this guy here, which goes like this, and snap it on. This is just the bracket for the wire, and create our loop. So I'm going to put the bracket where it belongs, and then make sure my loop equals the other one, and it does. And when we fold, we have plenty of wire, and that's the whole purpose of that loop. So when you fold it, you have no stress on that wire, which I will show you that as well as soon as we tighten it up. If I can get it. I can't see. Let me switch hands here. Am I using the right screw? Yeah. Just gotta get it lined up. It's a little tight because that bracket does push. There we go. So we're tightened up. We have that little loop there. And the reason for that is so when you close the arm, you're not putting tension on that. You don't want to leave too much of a loop because then it just gets in the way. So now let's go ahead and just start feeding it. Bring the antenna through and push all the wires through. Just like that. And now go to the other side where all the fun's gonna happen. All right. I don't like working on a quad and then not touching it for a while, especially if it's one like this where I just don't work on them enough. I don't like waiting so long in between repairs. So we're going to bring the antenna, remember, it goes underneath here. Just like that. And then we can put those small screws back. They are Phillips head. Put those back. I'll be so happy to get this done and delivered to this guy. I've had it way too long. Okay, so we have our antenna. Let's just leave it alone for now. And then these wires, I think, if I recall, stay out on top, and the other ones go underneath. Yeah, so your back legs go underneath, these come out on top, just like that. So now we'll make sure the soldering iron is all cranked up. And do you guys remember what order all the wires go? If you recall, we took a picture. Now it tells you where the wires go. So it's black, yellow, red. But over here, it doesn't tell you. Or does it? Yeah. It tells you left hand red LED, green LED, and then your 5 volts. So I'm going to imagine that is red, and then I don't remember. I think it's red, black, and yellow if I recall. Red, black, yellow. But we'll just double check with our image. If you look at this one, actually, red, black, yellow from the outside in. But if we go and look at our picture that we took back then, it will tell us. And it's been some time, so we look at the picture, and that's what it is. Red, yellow, black. I think I said red, black, yellow. So it's the opposite of that one, I guess. That one's red, black, yellow. This one's red, yellow, black. Okay, so I'm glad I took that picture. So the soldering iron is ready to go. Let's get this part done with, get it all soldered, and complete that part of it. So let's start with the one furthest away from me, which is the red. All the wires already have a coating of some solder on them, so I don't need to pre-treat them. Just need to rotate them so they're in line better. I'm going to separate them a little more. Okay. So now the hard part, because see, right now there's a camera right here and I'm behind it looking down. So this is not easy at all for me, guys. I am not exaggerating when I say this is very hard, but I can do it with a little finagling. And I want you guys to be able to see. That's the whole thing. So let's see. This is so tiny, it's hard. I will most likely add some solder to that because I actually removed a good bit of solder when I took that off, I think. I never like to add too much solder, especially in these tiny spots. Got to be very careful. You don't want to cross connect here. Come on, baby. Lined up. Last time I did this, it was a lot easier. This time it's being harder. Got it. Okay. Now yellow. I'm shaky. Okay, yellow's good. Now black. Yeah, yellow and black. Add some solder for that one as well. Come on, baby. Stick. This one is being a booger. All right. It did not go as nicely as I would like, I'm going to put just a little dab of flux because it doesn't seem to be grabbing. And you don't want to sit here and heat that board up at all. So it is attached. It's just not taking my solder very well. And I have a very good clean tinned tip. Okay. Just try not to move the wire and get a dab on there. There we go. Now you can see. Since I've got a little extra on here, I'm gonna try a little more on the red. Got it. And it's not perfectly focused, but you can see. Maybe a magnifying glass will help you guys. If the light ring doesn't mess it up. But there you go. Okay. So our solder is all in. I'm happy with it. I'm going to look myself real quick with the magnifying glass. Yeah, those look real good. Yeah, I'm happy with those. Now, these three, I don't like the way the solder's puddled, so I'm just going to kind of flatten the tops because when I have my wire on them, they're going to want to roll off easily, and I want these to go nice and smooth. Okay. And then just to show you, here's the order. Red, yellow, black. Just like it says, red, yellow, black. So let's get our black first since it's the furthest away. That's the way I like to do it anyhow. And they're bigger wires, are easier to deal with, so they should go easier. And tweezers are always good because your wires get hot fast, and your fingertips will feel it. So you want to sink that wire into that solder. Oh, I can't wait till my new tweezers arrive. If you want a good set of tweezers, look in the description of this video. I just ordered a 10-piece set that I think is going to be really nice. All right, now I went and flattened the wire out. Got to get it all puddled back. Heat her up, get her in there, clean it up, and add some to it. Of course, pop right off. Some days, just not with it. All right, that's a good one. Yeah, nice puddle. Okay, yellow. Don't give me a hard time, Mr. Yellow. I wish I could see this better. Okay. And then you can always add just a little flux. Doesn't hurt. Just don't spread it everywhere. Just get it on where you're going to be soldering, and it will puddle really nicely. Tweezers. The yellow's attached. I just want to add more to it here. Goes so much faster with the flux on it. Don't be like me and always try to get the perfect puddle, because you end up fighting it. Like this one here, it's perfectly fine, but I want the best puddle I can have, and sink that wire in there nicely. So I'm gonna end up messing with it more here, just to move that puddle around and make it nice and shiny. There we go. Now let's get our last wire. So you can see adding the flux, that helps a lot. So you should be able to see those really good. Those are nice, they're clean. So now that we have that done, I'm going to lay all the wires down. And before I do, we need to treat them with the white silicone. So we'll take care of these ones in the back here first. Now if you watched me repair the rear leg on mine, I did a hot glue, but since then I bought this electronic grade silicone. And for somebody that is paying me to work on their quad, I would like to give them back exactly what they had, not hot glue. There's nothing wrong with the hot glue, but I'd rather just do it the way it was. So now we're going to move these wires. Come on. I don't want to flood it, but you do want to cover, I guess. They ran theirs like a connection, so I'll do the same. And wipe this off. There we go. So we just need to let this dry. And I'm going to pause it real quick, let it dry enough. It dries fairly quick. Just want it to get a little bit hard on there. And once it does, then I will continue the rest of the repair. Okay, so it's still a little tacky, but it's good enough to work with. So while that's still drying, we'll go and take care of everything else. Now, if you remember, when I unhooked this board, when I lifted up on this board, I told you there was a connection right here that you can't avoid. It's going to come undone. So we have to reconnect that. So we're going to push this board down a little bit here and flip it upside down and get to that plug. So here it is right here. We got to get to the other side of this board. So we're pretty much all disconnected already, I think, on this board. Just need to unplug our back sensors, these two here, and this antenna for the other leg. And I think it should come up. There's a wire over there. but let's see if it's enough clearance. For us to get that undone, which it looks like it is. Yeah. So now I have that cable undone. You want to be careful. We're going to lay it back down. Here's the cable. You want to make sure you put it back on the same direction. And it goes underneath here, so I'll go ahead and just get it connected and then show you where it goes, because I can't see, still can't see. It's all the way up in the front left corner. Make sure you get it lined up. Don't force these, and then they just click right into place. So now you can see it's hooked up to this board, and we're going to push it back through the hole like that and connect back to this board. Sounds easy, doesn't it? I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll get the board all mounted before we do that. So we'll mount this board before doing that. So we got to get our flex cable for this side back through the hole carefully. And you don't want to unplug it in the process. Just bring it, fish it on through as carefully as you can. Without twisting it all up. There we go. And that one board hanging by one wire. All right, so now check our little grommets. I've got one. And the other ones are two of them missing, and here they are over here. So I'm gonna put these grommets back. These guys right here, just these little rubber grommets. And when I opened his quad up, two of them fell out. So they were never attached to begin with. The front one's very hard to get on. So I used tweezers. So yeah, Autel didn't do a good job on putting his on. They were little clumsy. And failed to get them on properly. Okay, so now they are where they belong. And get this cable to come out. It just popped under. Everything's still connected. And let's get these screws in this thing. Okay, you'll feel it. It falls right into place here. So let's slide back a little bit here. I'm holding it in place with my hands. Get the wires all laid down. They pinch down in these sides. Just like that. I'm not using a screwdriver. I'm actually using the Torx head so I don't puncture any wires. Lay all these away from screw holes. Put them off to the side here. And that's good to go. So I'm going to turn it this way. And then when we put this back on, let's dump these screws. When we put this back on, those screws go through the board. And you have spacers here to keep us lifted up. So let's put one side in. Remember, it's like little snaps. Let's see if it's better to do straight. No, it's not. You want to get one side locked in. After you've gone and messed with the wires, it's a little tighter. Okay, all are in place where they should be. So when our battery slips in, it's not going to rub on them. And then when we screw them in, of course, they're going to hold even better. So we've got this bolted down or mounted down good. There, it just keeps on clicking. I guess just squeeze it real good, make sure. Okay, it's as good as it's gonna get. So now that we have our board secure, we can go ahead and take care of that bottom piece. We got a little silicone on that lead. Okay, so let's go to the bottom board and connect this cable. So we'll tilt it to the side here and plug it in. Just wait for the click. You don't have much room to move around here at all. I don't even know if you guys can see this. Try to make it so you can see. So I can see. You have to have so much patience for this crap. I think I got it. Okay. All right, so we have it. Let's just make sure while we have it that this one's not undone, this one's not undone. They're all attached. And put it back into place carefully so we don't come undone again, because you don't want to take this thing back apart. All right. So now we're going to hook up our antennas, put everything back in order here. So this one, if you recall, comes up through this hole. Just like so. And then attaches over here. So let's put this other one back that we took off. These aren't easy either, because they're a nice stiff or nice gauge antenna. They're not cheap ones that are real flexible and easy to move around. They kind of just want to push back against you, and you want to make sure they're fully lined up, because you don't want to collapse the inside connector, and then they'll never go on. This is going to be a long video, guys. Longer than the other one. But for those of you who do not do this type of stuff, you're not crazy about doing this type of stuff, you need a tutorial. Hopefully this will serve you well. Most people probably won't need the whole video. Just fast forward through all the parts that work best for you. Hook all these flex cables back up. That one's already hooked up. And this other one is underneath the board. Yeah. Okay, that one's hooked up. I double check, triple check. Want to make sure we didn't come undone here. We're good. Everything's good. Now let's bring this guy around. Take all the cable it gives you first. Get it hooked up and then you can route it. Turn it the way you need to turn it, whatever you have to do. Especially when they're new, they're hard to get on. Okay, now there's a track right here. So you bring it down here and you want to put it in that track. That track is made to position it in the right spot, just to keep it out of the way of other parts. And we're in that track. So the wire comes through and goes to that track. Make sure it's push behind this sensor plate here. This one's in place. All these are snapped in. So we are good to go there. We don't do anything with these guys yet. And we can attach our bottom board now. And wasn't there? No, that's for the other side. I gotta put a plate here. But you tighten this one down that already has the nut on it. That's the easiest one to do first. And then we get our plate underneath this guy. There we go. Push that cable down. Oh, it is down. Just looks like it's up. Okay. Now let's tighten that up. Let's put the center screw in first. Sorry if I bumped the camera too. Don't tighten it all the way till we get all three in, because the bracket will move on you a little bit. And then at some point here soon, I'll be able to stop recording and just edit in the video from when I did this before. Always just make sure everything's tight. Never be too sure. So that's everything on that bottom. And then we can go ahead and put all our deck screws in, and after that just start putting the cage and everything back together. I don't like the way this is sitting though. This side, there we go. Okay, and again, once you tighten everything up, it's gonna stay together well. So let's put these guys all in. Okay, no wire sticking out. We're good. So from here, I will edit in the video from when I did the rear leg on mine, and you can just finish off by watching that video. So thank you for watching, and continue watching the rest of it. And good luck for all of you who need to do this. Don't be afraid to do this stuff on your own. So now let's put our cage portion back on. If you remember, it's this one here. Now these little tabs right here and here snap onto the frame here. So it does make it a little difficult going back on. It's one of those things again where it feels like you might be breaking quad, and you're gonna fumble around with it. It's gonna make a liar out of me. Come on. One side's on. Okay, so this side is on. I gotta get, I'm sure I'm messing this up on the camera. This side is on. I've got to get this piece behind and this piece on the outside, so that's what makes it difficult. Okay, got it. And you just kind of want to keep a little force on it because it's going to want to pop back out. Let's get our ribbon cable. I haven't been paying attention to the camera, so hopefully everything has been good for you guys to view. And I'm going to go ahead and get a couple screws started because that cage is going to want to come apart. So let's just get a couple screws in it so we don't have to worry about it coming undone. So I put one screw in there and one screw right here just to hold it in place so it doesn't come undone while we get all this back on the front here. So for the front, let's plug everything back in. Always be very careful with these. You want to make sure you feel that they line up before you add pressure. And usually you'll hear them click, sometimes you don't. Get our little plate back on here. This goes in the front, and that goes on like that. And we want the black screws. Let me gather all the screws. And then the tiny, tiny, tiny 3 screws. Okay, let's go with the tiny ones first. And put this back on. And then 1, 2, 3 black Phillips screws. So now we want to put all this back together and then finish screwing in the rest of that cage. So let's go ahead and get this all back. We have all the cables undone. So what I'm going to do is get this out of the way a little bit here. And I'll show you the cables. We're just going to re-secure this cable the way it was. You want to make this cable nice and straight where it was, and it runs right up here just like that. And then we go under this sensor here. We'll leave it like that for now. Let's go to the other side and get these cables. So same thing. This one here, you want to be careful because it needs to go behind this part of the leg, so you want to bring it around before you try to stick it. Bring it up, bring this one up, and then go behind the sensor. And then fold that down. Make sure it's secure. You can go back and check that later if you like. So here we are now, where we're just going to snap everything in place. And then we have this guy right here in the way. So you got to get behind it. And again, you want to feel that you're in place before you snap it, before you press down on it. And that one is really tight. I mean, hard to get to because of this. I think I'm there. Yeah, so that one's in, and then make sure it sticks here to the frame. And slide my finger down on the rest, and let's get this one in. That one's done. Press it down here, Make sure it sticks. And then once you do that, run your finger back down the side to take out any of the slack, because it makes like a little wave and comes undone. So now we're nice and secure here. Okay. Now the other side, same thing. Snap that one back in place. Press down here to make sure it's all stuck, and then run your finger down the side, and we're good to go. Always double check, even though we didn't unplug the other stuff, always double check your connections. Make sure everything is connected. Yeah, we're good to go. Okay. So now the center sensor, we can tighten that one back up. Make sure the little rubber grommet's in place. And all these screws, this one's longer and that one's longer. That's for the top sensor. So you have two longer ones, and then you have your short ones. The long ones go in the top here. Now the side ones for the sensor, this is the left sensor. All that's back together, ribbon cables in good spot. All this is back together, everything's snapped. Just double check your work, make sure everything's okay. Now let's finish putting these side screws in. Those of you who are still with me, I appreciate it. So that's all screwed back in place. All those screws. Check all your cables. Just go over everything. There is no rush to do this job. Just make sure you did everything nice and secure in putting it back. You can go back and double check. Oh, did I tighten up all my screws? Things like that. Now let's see if this top goes back on, or bottom, I'm sorry, if the bottom goes back on hard or easy. Now be very careful with this screen. You want to be extremely careful with that. That is very thin. So let's flip her over, line her up, line up your sensors, and then, actually I'm sorry, no, we want the top first. That was the hard part because of these sensors here. So put this on and line up our sensors right here and here. I'm just going to bring it down slow. This side's close. Okay, I heard it. Yep. Now this side looks like it's in too. It goes back a lot easier than it comes off, that's for sure. Holy man. Let's put this back on before I forget to do that. I believe that goes like that. Nope. This goes like that. Because we have screw there. And there we go. Snap, snap. Now we're lined up. See? So everything just kind of snaps back in. You just want to go around and make sure it's all snapped. And now we can start putting all our screws back together. This is probably where you don't need to watch anymore. But we'll just start putting it back together. Spread my screws out. So we got these 2 screws in the back. Now let's put this top cover on. Remember, you just have to look at what snaps in. This is probably best to put this front in first. Nope, it's not going to. You have to line these up first, like, yeah. Then press that front in. Everything's snapping. Okay, back is snapped. Front is snapped. Everything is snapped. You want to make sure everything is fully snapped before you put your screws in, because if not, you might break something when you tighten your screws up. So let's start with the front here. We're on the home stretch, guys. All the screws there are back in. I have no screws left there. All I have left here is the camera and then these. Okay, this looks like something back from Back to the Future. Okay, everything looks good. And let's put the camera back in place. So you drop the camera down in here. It's got these 2 little holes. They go into the front here. And you'll feel them fall into place. And then snap that back together. Like that. We are done. Everything is done. Okay, so here we are with the actual quad that I repaired. What I said before, the take apart and put back together version was my personal quad when I replaced the back leg. This is somebody else's where I had to replace the front leg. So now that we have it all done, we just want to power it up and check everything. But most importantly is make sure you have this hub from your broken leg. This does not come with the new legs. So you'll get the new leg with the motor, wires, antenna, everything all connected. I mean, all in place, except this hub does not come with it. So don't throw your leg away. Get that hub off there. And if you've broken your leg and lost it, hopefully you can find this somewhere. Because I don't recall seeing one. I wasn't specifically looking for one, but at this point so far, I do not recall seeing one. So I'm just gonna go around clockwise here, one at a time, and just let them touch. Not fully tightening them down, just getting them all set, make sure it's sitting properly. Then I'll go and just kind of snug them up. You don't have to go crazy and crank on them because this is plastic. That hub is plastic, so you don't need to be cranking down on it. Occasionally check that just as a pre-flight checklist. You know, add it to your pre-flight checklist if you do that, but periodically just check on it. You don't have to do it every single flight, you know, every couple dozen flights. Maybe just check it, make sure they're not tight, and don't go cranking on them. Just make sure they're not loose. So now you can put your prop on. Remember, there's 2 different types if you have to order them. With the identifier for the different props. And we're already set here. So I just want to check when I turn it on, which you won't be able to see. But I want to check, make sure the gimbal is calibrating on startup and not acting weird. And then we're going to start it and make sure the motor's turning in the right direction and that we don't have any prompts on the screen saying that something's wrong with a sensor or something like that. You know, when you take these apart and you do all this kind of work, you can have an issue with where, you know, we might have done damage with the GPS cable, we might have done damage with a sensor cable, so it would tell us here on the screen as a prompt. But I'm gonna go ahead and fire it up, and then in the meantime, if you guys wouldn't mind, give that thumbs up on your way out, and subscribe to my channel if you're new. And as always, hit that bell for future content and notification. And let's see if this baby works. Gimbal should start moving to the right, to the left, up, and center. Okay, we're good. Initializing. The gimbal is not ready. Do not fly. Give it a minute, and that usually goes away. And there we go. So it's ready to go. Turn it around. And we just want to make sure that our motors are all turning in the correct direction. We know these will be all fine. We just want to make sure that this one here is fine. So let's start it up. Yep, turning in the right direction. Both these going this way, and then these go that way. So good to go. Turn that off. And power this down. So hopefully you guys will not need this video. Hopefully you're just watching it because you're bored. But for those of you who do need it, I hope it serves you well. I tried my best to be as thorough as I can. If you can solder, you can do this repair. So I encourage everybody, if you are the least bit handy and you can work a soldering iron, give this a shot and do this repair on your own versus sending it away and spending so much money. These legs are like $35, $40. So it's not an expensive repair to do yourself. So next video to come on this baby is replacing all the sensors. You will never need to replace all your sensors, but I show you how to disconnect and connect every single sensor in this quad. And that way you have something if you want to see how hard it is. It's very simple. Compared to replacing front and back leg, replacing sensors, incredibly easy. And the parts are easily obtained. You can purchase these sensors, every single one of them. So that's about it. And again, thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video. Peace and love.